This film is brought to you by Epilepsy Awareness Day. Epilepsy Awareness Day is an amazing day at Disneyland Resort in Anaheim, California. It was founded to unite the epilepsy community worldwide to create awareness, to inspire the world, where 1 in 26 people will suffer a seizure and have epilepsy in their lives. Epilepsy Awareness Day was created to bring epilepsy out of the shadows and to stamp out stigma. To book your ticket and to find out more about the event, visit www.epilepsyawarenessday.org and by purpleday.org. In 2008, Cassidy Megan created the idea of Purple Day, motivated by her own struggles with epilepsy as a teenager. Cassidy's goal is to get people talking about epilepsy in an effort to dispel myths and to inform those with epilepsy seizures that they are not alone. The Epilepsy Association of Nova Scotia, Canada came on board in 2008 to help Cassidy's idea take shape. For further information about Purple Day and how you can take part, visit purpleday.org. And by talkaboutit.org, a non-profit founded by actor-musician Greg Grunberg. You may have seen him on screen in Heroes, Alias, Big Ass Spider, or heard him bashing his drums in the band from TV. Greg founded Talk About It because of his #1 fan, his son Jake, who has epilepsy. When Jake was diagnosed, there wasn't much awareness about epilepsy, and no one was talking about it much. On talkaboutit.org there's videos of Greg with lots of famous movie and television actors talking about epilepsy, but there's more to discover on that website. So visit talkaboutit.org. Hi, it's Sam Downie. I'm outside the Twit Brick House in Petaluma. These are the studios. Let's go inside and talk about it. So we're going to talk about epilepsy.
Well, November was Epilepsy Awareness Month, and thanks to Sam Downie, my good friend, I've learned a lot more about it and visited this site, talkaboutit.org. Maybe next November we can have even more people learn about epilepsy. Epilepsy awareness. It's very important.
Hello, it's Sam Downie here, and you're watching a video about the day that took place here at Disneyland near Los Angeles to raise awareness about epilepsy. Today is Thursday the 7th of November 2013, and I was here to participate as well as to interview quite a lot of people who have epilepsy like myself. So stick around, watch this video, learn so much, and also learn about why there was 1,000 people here today at the park talking about epilepsy.
Epilepsy Awareness Day at Disneyland, and I want to introduce you to our personal Cinderella. Jennifer Brooks helped make this all happen, and Aiden Downey, say hi. Hi. Don't eat it, say hi. Hi. Aiden Downey is the reason it all started. This little guy comes into our office and runs into my arms or Brad's arms and says, "Dr. Stein," or "Brad." And Jennifer said, "Hi, Dr. Stein."
How can I help? So Dr. Stein has been fundamental in just treating my son, and I really wanted a way to give back and help other families, and she's helped us so much I wanted to do the same.
So I gave her a job. I said, well, get me a Epilepsy Awareness Day at Disneyland. And we never knew that this had never happened before, that there's been no awareness event ever. We just went in and said, let's see what we can do. And so Jennifer said, okay. And I think the rest is history. What did Aiden say about Epilepsy Awareness Day at Disneyland? Tell us, Aiden.
I miss you.
Yeah, oh, I miss you. And are you happy to be here, Aiden?
Yeah.
Yes, and how are you doing now?
Good.
Yay! Aiden's good.
Aiden's journey's been a long journey. He had a febrile seizure at 11 months. We didn't have any diagnosis for him. Later had an MRI, had some white matter loss, but still really we weren't qualifying for any services. We didn't know what was going on. We were at a point where I was a single mom. He was getting ready to get kicked out of daycare, and I was literally at my wit's end. So we came to Dr. Stein, and we started doing some EEGs and found out he had epilepsy. So that was step number one. And just over time, I was very scared to put him on medication. He was only 3 years old, such a little guy. But Aiden, before medication, he never talked. His communication was limited to what he needed. And I will never forget, we were at the department store Macy's in a dressing room, and he randomly looked at me and said, "Mom, you look pretty." And it still makes me want to cry because that was the first time I heard him ever say anything for no reason. So I'm just very thankful for Dr. Stein, because Aiden would not be where he is today without her.
Yeah.
And without awareness that he needed to be referred to someone.
Yes.
Because I don't know that he would be where he is if it wasn't found out that he had epilepsy. He wasn't convulsing.
No, they were all they were all in his sleep. One of the biggest seizures he had during the EEG was in the car, and I didn't see anything, and he didn't have the communication at that time to tell me what was going on. So completely different child. Just Diane has been instrumental in just helping me get services. So now Aiden is functioning, he's talking, he's learning to write, where before I didn't know what was going to happen.
Mark Anderson.
Okay, Mark. How long have you had epilepsy for?
About 22 years.
And tell me about your story, about what's changed.
Well, Mark's seizure started when he was 14, and they were always out of control. We have investigated seizure surgery 4 different times. He's not a candidate. He now has a VNS. But the biggest change in his life has been the addition of Dr. Stein to the whole mix. She is amazing, and she's the one responsible for the lifestyle that he enjoys today. And she is so compassionate and so kind and giving, and she wants to not only reduce seizures but increase
life, make life better.
The quality of life.
Yes.
So she never runs out of ideas. We never feel like we're at a dead end. She always has yet another thing that she pulls out of her sleeve.
Stop, yes.
And we just never feel that it's hopeless. And in particular, Mark's well-being is very much due to the fact that we discovered he is allergic to gluten, or gluten sensitive. And so he's on a gluten-free diet along with about 13 other allergies. So in terms of food preparation, there's a lot to do, but the payoff is huge, and he's a different person. And he now is enjoying life and still has seizures every 2 weeks, but better than every 5 days as it was before.
Yeah, wow. So what sort of foods are you eating? So what sort of foods were you eating? But yeah.
The main allergy was gluten, but it's like things like I'm allergic to gluten, some nuts. I can't even eat things like yeast, and so we have to make dairy and all that kind of stuff. So we have to do our own breads and make our own bread and like soy and oils like that, tomatoes, all those kind of things.
So we make ketchup.
Reduce the diet so much and make our own. Yeah. Yeah.
I think one of the biggest changes that have been incorporated through this whole diet change is Mark has been reborn, woken up. And we always attributed the slowness and the body aches and the difficulty in fellowship and relationships and all of those things to the medication that he's taken all these years. But in actuality, it was really the gluten intolerance that he had. And once he got the gluten out, it was like being reborn. He woke up. His mind woke up. Body aches had gone away. The irritated stomach and all those things that he's had for 25 years all disappeared. So we would encourage anybody that has some of those same symptoms to really look into possibly employing a gluten intolerance or gluten-free diet.
That's really interesting, because this kind of subject doesn't come up much about changing what you eat, which will affect what type of seizures or decreases the amount of seizures that you have.
Well, if you do some reading on the topic of gluten-free and on celiac, you'll find seizures listed as a potential side effect of ingesting gluten.
Here for those kinds of
problems. In fact, he was probably gluten intolerant all his life. Mark is now 37. We didn't discover this till he was 34. And so he was, in effect, malnourished. And he has damaged I, by my cooking, have damaged his small intestines to such an extent that no absorption was taking place. And so particularly folate is an important one. And Dr. Stein just recently decided that we should supplement with folate.
Wow, that's a really interesting story. Thank you for telling me about it.
Pleasure. Thank you.
That's great. And nice to meet you, Mark, as well.
Foundation is the official foundation of the American Academy of Neurology, the largest professional organization of neurologists in the U.S. We're a foundation who is committed to funding research to cure brain disease. So epilepsy, autism, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, MS, and the list goes on and on and on. On an annual basis, we fund anywhere from 16 to 18 fellowships working in the different areas of brain disease, looking to find cures and improve treatments to help patients and their families. Well, I think it's perceived based on the particular disease state. There's not really a ton of awareness for all of the different brain diseases, and days like this, bringing together lots of foundations and patients and their families to sort of bring awareness to how prevalent and how widespread epilepsy is, and how that can help patients who are suffering from other diseases that may have commonalities with epilepsy is hugely important. So hopefully this becomes an annual event and can start to piggyback off of like-minded and similar events across the country. And that's the important thing. part of raising awareness is getting the conversation started about how patients are affected, how their families are affected, and how the community at large is affected. And then it's getting the conversation started about how do we improve treatments, how do we start to look for cures, and how do we start to provide patients and their families and their communities with the support that they need so that they can lead the most productive and happy lives possible. And this is one of many steps in the right direction to start to lift the stigma of folks with epilepsy and other brain diseases, because we're all the same and we all just have something that makes us a little different and a little special.
Yeah. So, tell me, does the American Brain Foundation have a website, and are you on Twitter? So people can find out more information about who you are.
We are on the web at AmericanBrainFoundation.org, on Facebook as well, and on Twitter at ABF Brain.
Okay. So Lauren, thank you for talking to me.
Well, thank you so much.
And have a wonderful day here.
Same to you.
This is Dr. Phil Hammond saying, let's talk about epilepsy, let's reduce the stigma, let's inform people, and together we can get much better care. Thank you.
Dr. Phil Hammond,
BBC Radio Bristol. Hi there, folks. 11:05. In a moment, we're going to talk about bliss, which is the theme of this year's Bath Literary Festival. That's coming up in the next half hour. I'm delighted now to be joined by Sam Downie to talk about Epilepsy Awareness, and a rather exciting trip he's recently had to the Disneyland resort. But tell us about yourself, Sam. You too have epilepsy, is that right?
I do, Phil, yes. I've had epilepsy for quite a long time, but it was a late diagnosis. So I was diagnosed 8 years ago with epilepsy. So before that, I didn't know what a seizure was or what was taking place to me.
So what was happening? If you could describe it now, you have temporal lobe epilepsy, which isn't the classic episode that some people will know about.
No. So what was taking place to me? I was having these strange kind of fits at night. And my whole body was shaking, or certain limbs of me was shaking. Then also I was noticing these jerks in the daytime as well. And I didn't know what was going on. So I went to my GP. My GP thought at the time, first, it was anxiety. It was panic attacks I was having. And this kind of went on for a couple of years. Then after that, I went back to my GP and I said, look, it's going on further. And so he got me referred to Southmead Hospital. Then they referred me to Frenchay Hospital. From my first consultancy at Frenchay, they did several tests with me. So for people who have epilepsy, they do these tests are taking a blood sample to see if epilepsy is caused by a genetic cause. Then there's the EEG, which is measuring your brain waves and seeing what's taking place, the electrical activity within your brain. And finally, there's a MRI, which is taking images of functionality, the structure of your brain, to see if there's anything that kind of points out to the neurologists, anything that shouldn't be there.
And they were able to make the diagnosis on the basis of those tests, were they, for you?
They weren't at the beginning. They said to me that my EEG recordings were normal at the time. They only did a 1 hour test with me.
Okay.
And so with those 1 hour tests aren't satisfactory to do, because you won't get a really good recording of what's going on within your head. So they said to me that was normal. Also, they said to me my MRI tests were also normal as well. So this was 8 years ago.
Okay.
Fast forward to last year, I get the same results. I get referred to another neurology specialist this time. And the specialist takes me through exactly the same tests.
Yeah.
And these tests actually show up
for temporal lobe epilepsy.
Yes, which is I have some type of brain tumour, which showed up via my MRI scans. And they also said to me that my EEG recordings were abnormal.
Okay. And are you now on treatment?
Yeah. So for the last 8 years, taking anti-epilepsy drugs. which I take in the morning and in the evening.
So tell us how you got this gig at Disneyland, because that was in front of lots of people, a big awareness campaign out in America. How did they find out about you?
Oh, yeah. So basically, I'm a specialist in social media.
Mm-hmm.
And I really like helping people to communicate in different ways. So how Disney got in contact with me, it was an event which was going to be taking place on the 7th of November this year at Disneyland near Los Angeles in California. And they contacted me via the doctors who were organising it. So this was without any funding.
Yeah.
So purely based, being run by volunteers. So they contacted me saying that they needed some help with getting the message out, getting the awareness help out. In America, every November, for them, it's National Awareness Epilepsy Month.
Okay.
So epilepsy is talked about throughout the whole country.
Wow. And you took over Disneyland, basically, did you? Or
Yeah.
the Disneyland Resort. Everyone was wearing these T-shirts and bandanas. And
So for epilepsy, the awareness colour is purple.
Okay.
But, so during the event, everybody was given these T-shirts. We sold over 1,500 tickets to this event.
And you're just surrounded by people wearing purple.
Yes, so these were families, children of all ages, because epilepsy affects people of all ages, which people don't realise.
No, they don't realise how common. About 1 in 30 people will develop epilepsy, won't they?
In the UK, it's about 4 million people who have epilepsy.
And what charities are there in the UK if people want to find out more about it?
If you want to find out more information, there's the Epilepsy Action, and there's another one called Epilepsy Society.
And you have your own help group, don't you, here?
We do.
What's your one here in Bristol called?
The one in Bristol, which also covers Gloucestershire and Somerset as well. It's called Bristol Epilepsy, and the website is bristolepilepsy.org.uk, and we have monthly meetings and social groups.
And absolutely anyone of any age can come to that?
Yeah, sure.
How are you funded?
We're not funded at the moment.
So it's entirely your own charity work?
Yes, so members at the moment are paying £10, that's per year, to come to the meetings. And also the meetings are held at cafes around the area.
Okay.
So we're trying to, and these meetups try to, because if you bring a lot of people who have epilepsy, they start talking about it together.
Yeah. Well, that's excellent. So remind us again, if people want to come to your local group, what's the website?
The website is bristolepilepsy.org.uk.
Thank you, Sam Downie. That was really fascinating. Well done on getting to Disneyland, but well done on spreading the message here and offering support to people with epilepsy here in Bristol and
Thank you,
the
Phil.
surrounding regions.
All right, well, my only experience ever with epilepsy on a personal level occurred many years ago when I was a schoolboy in England, and the biggest, toughest, strongest kid in the class sat next to me, and then one day he collapsed on the floor with an epileptic fit. I had no idea what was going on, but our teacher told me to do something which I have since learned is the exact opposite of what I should have done. That was to put a pencil in his mouth to stop him swallowing his tongue. Well, I did that, and fortunately he did not die, he did recover, but I do know now that you have to talk about it to know what to do and how to help people and get the word out. Just talk about it.
There's so much that I don't know, and so much I still have to learn. I didn't even think that if you have epilepsy that you can't just get in a car and start driving. So much I don't know. People needed to talk to me about it. I want to talk to you about it. Talk about it! Talk about it! Talk about it.
Still to come with John Darville.
BBC Radio Bristol. So it is right up your street. That's where we are all this week in South Gloucestershire. We've been to Warmley, we've been to Hanham, and today we are in Kingswood. Tim McSweeney is there, and you'll hear from him in a song's time. Also coming up, Purple Day. What is Purple Day? Well, today is Purple Day. You're still none the wiser, are you? More on Purple Day and what it actually means before midday, and we will also catch up with Steve Yabsley. Find out what he's doing after the news at noon.
John Darville.
BBC Radio Bristol. Good morning. You and me together for the next few hours here on BBC Radio Bristol, 26th of March. But today is not just about the NUT. Today is also Purple Day. But you didn't know what Purple Day was. Do you know what Purple Day is? Well, it's about epilepsy, and more people than you probably realise live with epilepsy. And I'm delighted to say that my guest, Sam Downie, is here to talk about Purple Day. Sam, good morning to you.
Yeah, good morning to you, John.
And you are somebody who has epilepsy?
I'm a journalist, a locally based journalist who's had epilepsy. I was diagnosed with it 10 years ago, but I found out recently that I've actually had it since I was birth.
Okay.
And it's called focal onset epilepsy.
Right.
And it takes place in my temporal lobes. So for people who don't know where their temporal lobes are, so everybody has the temporal lobes. Yeah. They're the bits of your brain on either side of your brain.
Right.
So mine takes place on my right-hand side. Yeah. And they call it's a brain lesion on it,
right,
which could be a brain tumour, right, or it could be some sort of blood clot or something like that.
Okay, so you've lived with this for longer than you've been diagnosed with it?
I have, yes.
So how did you get diagnosed with it?
I was diagnosed locally at Frenchay Hospital.
Yeah.
And
was that after an episode?
It was, yes. So I fainted totally whilst working, and luckily it took place at lunchtime.
Okay.
And so I was taken to A&E, didn't know what was taking place. They ran some tests. This took 6 hours to do. And then finally at the end of it, the consultant said, go and see consultants at Frenchay Hospital. So I started doing that. And they sent me on 3 tests. So everybody who is diagnosed with epilepsy goes on, takes these 3 tests. And the tests are, they take blood from you. Then they also do various MRI scans, and then EEG recordings. So EEG is putting probes on your head and recording your brain activities over.
So how does this manifest itself for you when you have an episode?
For me, I have lots of different types of the seizures. So that's what you've actually, that's the word that you've got to use. And there's various types. There's over 40 different types of seizures. So for me, I have absent seizures, which means I can go blank for a couple of seconds or up to 30 seconds and not remember a thing.
Because I spoke to a mum from Kingswood who was saved by her daughter, who can be walking down the pavement and not have any idea where she is or what she's doing, can walk out to a road and be completely unaware of what's happening.
Yeah.
And that's a form of epilepsy. It's not, as one would perhaps perceive, Sam, having a fit, lying on the floor, thrashing around. It can be, you can appear to be normal, you can appear to be conscious.
You certainly can, John, yeah.
And it can be actually happening to you.
Yes.
Okay. So what happens to you?
And that's one of the things. I also have seizures in sleep as well. So affects my sleeping pattern, and I would also and so it affects people around me as well, obviously.
So not just you; it's those who know you because they've got to watch out for this, I'd imagine.
Yes, and of course I can't drive either.
No.
So that's one of the things which your driving licence gets revoked from you.
Yeah.
So that affects your work as well.
So consequential. So today, Purple Day is to raise awareness of those living with epilepsy. People can find out more about Purple Day just by pumping that into a search engine of their choice, I would imagine.
Yeah, purpleday.org is the website to go to. You'll find out information about it. But there's also, in the UK, there's Epilepsy Action, there's Epilepsy Society, and in Bristol, there's the Bristol Epilepsy Support Group has a website as well.
Very, very briefly, Sam, because we're short of time. How does this affect you on a day-to-day basis? Do you live with epilepsy, or does epilepsy live with you? I mean, so far as it controls everything you do.
I try and not allow it to control me.
Right.
I try and get to make my life normal as possible.
Yeah.
But when an epilepsy seizure takes place, I have to rest and try and just find a safe place. So that means I can just relax and then be able to carry on work, or maybe sometimes I might have to take off work.
Okay, so consequential, certainly, by the sound of it.
Yes, it affects employment.
I'm very grateful you coming in this morning to talk about this. Purple Day, put that into a search engine of your choice. Sam Downie, thank you very much for coming in this morning to BBC Radio Bristol.
Thank you, John.
Thank you. Thank you.
John Darville.
BBC Radio Bristol. That'll be me then.
Okay, so that was me, Sam Downie, talking about epilepsy on BBC Radio Bristol. And if you want more information about things I said fairly quickly, visit purpleday.org. Also go to the Epilepsy Action website, epilepsyaction.org.uk, and epilepsysociety.org.uk for all the epilepsy charities and information about epilepsy in the UK. If you want to find out more information about me, go to my website dsounds, that's dsoundz.co.uk.